let's take a look at our reflectivity. And before we can really test reflectivity, we need something to reflect. And to do that, we're going to have to step it up a notch and go to another renderer. So we'll try the mental ray renderer. And in the mental ray renderer, I'm going to go to scene and make an image-based lighting. Image-based lighting is going to create a big dome around our whole scene, or a sphere around the whole scene, and put an image on it, and that image is going to give reflections to anything that is reflective. And usually requires a very special type of file called an HDR, a high dynamic range image. It can carry luminance values, and instead of just having a normal, basically it can emit light. So I have an HDR on my machine, and I'll go ahead and post this somewhere so the class can use it as well. There's free HDRs online, but as we do it, you notice it created a big dome, and it put this image on there, and that image will now serve to broadcast light into the scene and to give reflections. So as we test this now, you notice things get pretty cool pretty quickly. So this is what we're looking at, and notice it's less transparent on the edges, and now we want it so it's only reflective on the edges and less reflective in the center, because this is where our action is going to be, and we want less of this going on right here, this reflection. So the same way we did our ramp for our transparency, we can do for our reflectivity. So I'm going to create a new ramp. Middle mouse drag this down. Again, delete the 2D texture node. We just need the ramp. Open up our UV coordinate and bring our facing ratio into the V. And we want to bring our out color to the color first. Now I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to turn our diffuse back on, and I'm going to disconnect this temporarily from the transparency, just so we can see what's going on in our ramp. Now for reflection, white is reflective and black is not reflective. So before we had a black to white ramp, we're going to swap those so it's the opposite. So we want this part that is, we don't want reflective, and we just want those very edges to be reflective, and we can kind of smooth that out. Alright, something like that. Now that we have that, we want to go ahead and take this to, let's see, our reflectivity, but we need to just select the R, the out R, into reflectivity, and then we'll reattach our out color to the other ramp to the transparency, and we'll go back here and take our diffuse back down to something low. It doesn't have to be all the way to 0. And let's try that again. Okay, good looking glass. Very nice. Also, if you hit 3, it's smoothed, so we're not getting that faceted as we did before. So this is very nice. Now, the background may get a little distracting, so what we can do is we can actually select that environment, that IBL, that image-based lighting node, and we can go into its shape node. And if we go down far enough to render stats, we can say, hey, we don't want you visible. Primary visibility, let's uncheck that. It's still going to be visible as an environment, but it's not going to be there. So if we wanted to change the background now, we would need to go to our camera and put something in. So there we go. We have some nice reflections. And you know, some of these are getting really strong, and that depends on IBL, your image base node. So if it's something that's too intense, we can just take, I'm selecting the environment on, we can spin it around so something back here that's less intense, but still going to give us some good reflections. And you notice you get a different feel completely depending on how much light's kind of back here. You see that? Let me zoom in. All right. All right. So once you start getting into reflections, all right, and We'll end this section of this tutorial here. In the next tutorial, I want to show you how you can begin to tweak your reflections and further refine the scene.